By now, many of you know that I've supported the Palestinian cause very, very passionately, as well as advocating and aiding Syrian refugees, just like the incredible Malik, and educational scholarships, hoping that in doing so too, they can achieve a second chance in life.
So this video is going to be about Muslims, yes, and I really want people to understand something. So hang tight and listen. And I really need people to put two and two together, okay? Muslims will say Islam itself is a very, very strict religion. They have very strict guidelines to follow, and guidelines even in war. That being said, the media is going crazy saying, oh, Friday the 13th, all the Muslims are supposed to come out and blah, blah, blah. This is called fear-mongering. I personally feared Muslim people. I did, okay? And now I'm married to one. But hold up before you say anything. The media really, really wants you to believe that Muslims are bad people. And that's because Islam is one of the fastest growing religions in the world. You can fact check me, everything that I'm saying. They want the Christian ideology to stay on top in America. Actually, we'll say any Western country. That being said, that whole Friday the 13th, and they're all gonna come at me and all of the above, like, and they're even raising their security. Muslims don't do this. Like, I'm just letting you know, Muslim people do not do this, okay? And if one person does do something, they're gonna blame the whole religion. That is the issue here. They blame the whole entire religion. Moral of the story is, because I live in a community with Muslims, I go to different sorts of, like, I do Eid, I go around people at the mosque, I do all of this stuff. The sweetest people on planet Earth, man. Like, the media is lying to you. It's called fear-mongering. Look that up as well. Fear-mongering. Mind you, I've been married to a Muslim man for almost 13 years. It will be in January. And I know people are going to be like, oh, she's being manipulated. Bro, I have a brain. I can think for myself. I mean, it's been 13 years, bro. And just real fast, and I just wanted to say this when it comes to fearing Muslim people. I was there. I lived in a very white suburban community. Like, there was nobody there besides white people. And then I ended up moving in with 5 Moroccan guys. But that's beside the point. It was scary at first because I didn't know anything until I just hung out with them and understood Islam itself. So, like, I even got a English version of the Quran, and I took online classes for the Quran. And dude, I just don't know how America can portray a religion to be bad. Like, I just don't know. So just please stop listening to the media about Islam. Like, I don't know. It's almost a joke. It's literally a joke. It's because they know people's not going to look into it. But I'm here encouraging you to just take a peek.
Here in New York City, thousands of people have come into the streets. The fear is that the extermination campaign in Gaza is going to take its next step, and the 2.4 million people trapped in the largest ghetto, in the largest open-air prison in the world, are going to be pushed into the Sinai Peninsula, pushed out of their ancestral homeland, where the Palestinian people have lived for thousands and thousands of years, where there were Jewish Palestinians and Christian and Muslim Palestinians living in peace. But Netanyahu, Biden, and Blinken and the Zionist Project are now trying to exterminate the people of Gaza. There's a potential genocide brewing. What is CNN saying? What is MSNBC and Fox News saying? They're complicit in this potential genocide of the Palestinian people. Thousands of people in New York City are warning against genocide, that the people of Palestine have a right to live in their land and the right to return to their homes, to the homes where they lived in 1948, the right of return. Around the world, we're seeing the onset of fascism in France, in Germany, in England. The people are not allowed to carry the Palestinian flag. The propaganda campaign is equating Hamas with the entire Palestinian people. Because of one attack against 1,300 people in Israel, does that justify the displacement, ethnic cleansing, and genocide of 2.4 million people in Gaza and almost another 3 million in the West Bank?
Civilized nation on earth would agree that depriving children of food and water is acceptable. I'm here because I'm a human being, and anyone with a conscience believes that a civilian population should never be punished in this way. It's collective punishment, it's a war crime. And unless we stop it, unless we get out there and say something, it's going to end up with thousands losing their lives.
Can you put into words how you feel about the loss of life on both sides?
Every life is precious. But the root of this violence is the occupation. It's not complicated. It's a settler colonial state imposing apartheid and oppression on an indigenous people. And that's wrong everywhere, for anybody. And it has to be true that all the Palestinians want is freedom. And we must support that in equal rights. And I stand up here, I'm so pleased to see so many of my brothers and sisters with big hearts who know the truth. And the Western media has a duty now to tell the truth about what's happening, because I am seeing the worst horrors I could ever have imagined. I grew up in the shadow of the Holocaust, and we said never again, and that means never again for anyone. And I beg of anyone, if they have a conscience, get out there and speak and demand your leaders speak.
There seem to be, of course, deep divisions on either side, but you've come out today and you were telling me earlier that this is about being a human, a fellow human being.
I'm so thrilled to be here among my brothers and sisters who can see the truth, despite all the propaganda and the lies and the bias and the prejudice that we see in the Western media. It has been, quite frankly, an appalling week.
What would you like to see the UK government do now?
They must demand a ceasefire. They must demand that Israel stop bombing children and stop burying them under rubble. They must demand a humanitarian corridor so aid and medical supplies can get in. They must demand they have electricity. They must demand that there is food and water. This is an emergency now, a crisis, and people must rise to it.
Thank you so much for your time, Katie. Thank you. So you heard that strong words from Katie. That's echoed across most of the people that we've spoken here today. There is a real sense that people want the UK government to step in, to really come out strong. Ceasefire. They want to see humanitarian corridors here, but mostly what they want from the people we've spoken to today is for a peaceful protest. We've heard there, as you were saying before, about the police presence here. They are being very careful with the words that they are choosing. They're talking about being impartial, and it's a tricky balance being able to have a large police presence here, but also strike the balance between protecting the right to protest and freedom of speech, but also with a warning that anyone showing toleration, any kind of terrorism won't be tolerated.
Do you condemn what Hamas is doing right now?
Well, it's expected. Why do people support Ukraine? It's international law that if you're being invaded, you can resist. And they have been invaded.
Is violence the right way, though?
Well, they've tried everything else.
Are you a Labour member?
I was thrown out the Labour Party.
And why is that?
They didn't like the facts, the truth that I put on Facebook about Israel and about the Palestinians.
You're wearing a Palestine lanyard.
Well,
What's your thoughts on the violence in Israel at the moment?
It's horrific. But I think about the horrific lives the Palestinians lead. Nearly 4 million people crammed into that tiny piece of land with no freedom.
It's terrorism and it's undiluted. It's horrible. It's nasty. It's heartbreaking. It's absolute heartbreak. My support is 1000% with Israel.
What's your thoughts on Keir Starmer's response to it?
He's a joke.
Why do you say that?
Because he hasn't got a clue. He hasn't got a clue. He's a proud Zionist. He hasn't got a clue. He doesn't know anything about history.
Well, why didn't he condemn the violence of the Israelis against the Palestinians, which has been happening every day, for day in, day out, for weeks, for months, for years, for decades? Why doesn't he condemn that? It's pure hypocrisy. Double standards with a capital D.
Conversely, when I've been speaking to people today, they've said, Palestinians have faced occupation by Israelis for decades. Do you think that's justified?
Do you know what? To me, you lose all your arguments when you're bombing kids at a concert. I don't care.
There's videos all over social media of young women, elderly women who were taken hostage by Hamas. Do you think that's right?
Of course not.
No.
But is it right to shoot children and throw a knife next to them, to run over children? Under international law, by the way, make sure you know this, that occupied people have got a right to defend themselves. And the second point is...
surely not in that way, though, do you think?
Well,
Taking
what do we
hostages?
do? We defend it. We go to war. We bomb houses. The Israelis bomb houses. Which is the worst? Tying a bomb around yourself or dropping a bomb from a missile? Which is the worst?
Jeremy Corbyn hasn't outright condemned Hamas. What do you think of that? This is the former Labour leader.
He wants to find some kind of peace, and people don't maybe see that, and it makes him look like he's condoning a lot of things.
I think he should have condemned it. Everyone can say, I'm a big supporter of both Israel and Palestine. I think Palestine should be its own sovereign state. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't condemn a terrorist group.
They just have to talk to each other. That's the only, Margaret Thatcher talked to the IRA through an intermediary, and I thought, when I heard that first, I thought, thank God, because there is no resolution without talking.